Sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective. Hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and our local Sharks expert, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening, fans. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. I think in all the times that we have recorded, this is episode 31, that is only the second time that I have fucked up the intro. So honestly, we're doing pretty darn good, but I don't want to dwell on that because I want to start this episode with a massive thank you toward myself carefully here. Thanks to a very kind and generous act, Dom and I have been given the opportunity to attend Game 6 of the Avs Stars series tomorrow, or I guess today, rather, when you hear this. We are incredibly thankful. We're super excited, looking forward to not only going to a playoff game, but going to a playoff game together.
Absolutely, Corey. I'm feeling truly blessed, as I know you are, and so much gratitude, and really just excited to be able to attend the game with you, especially a playoff game together, like you said. And what a big game it is going to be.
Yeah, I had said that I admire anybody who has the to actually attend this game, and little did I know that I was going to be one of those people. I'm not emotionally prepared for it. Elimination games are the worst and also the best, right? It's where heroes are made and the biggest fucking moments can happen. So there is that, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. First and foremost, I just wanted to say you don't need a reason to do something good for others. Put kindness out in the world, both for yourself and for everyone around you. It is free to be nice. And I have reflected on why I and Dom started this podcast. And it was to, as I say really in the intro, to talk about this game, not from, obviously we like to do analytics, it's fun, but at the end of the day, I never played the game, so I'm just a fan like everybody else, but I love to talk about hockey, and it's always been my dream to expand that love to other people and introduce what I think is the greatest sport on earth to as many people as I can, and grow this to hopefully do some good along the way. But I love doing this. I love that I get to talk about my favorite team, even if one person tunes in every week. It's a joy, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you just want to be a fan. Sometimes you just want to watch the game, not have to take notes, just want to be involved in it because I'm emotionally invested in every game. Dom knows this. There is no doubt that I am fully invested even in regular season games, but I now know that there are people out there who this means something to, not just to me. So it's great to know that without, yeah, that's what I will leave it at, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's well said, Corey. And certainly, I think for both of us, we started this with a vision, not knowing how much of an impact we could have or would have. And truly, I started this more than anything, just grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you every week about hockey and have that time together. And if we could actually bring some joy and some excitement of the game of hockey to everyone else, then all the better. But I think as we are here after one full regular season, talking playoffs, I think it just has me that much more excited looking ahead to what we can bring next year and in the future, and just continuing on this journey together. It really is so exciting, and I agree, it can be tough. Trust me, if anyone knows how tough it's been this season, talking about the Sharks, and we've seen it where every once in a while I'd have an episode where it's like, hey, I don't have anything new, same things I've been saying for a few episodes now, same issues. So hopefully we can have some other things to bring in the future, but for now, just appreciation for you, man, for helping create this in the first place. Appreciation to all of you who do tune in and listen. and I'm happy that we can be here talking hockey together.
Absolutely. Well, we will jump into it right away because everything is either falling into place, falling apart, falling in general, because, oh my goodness, tonight was a big night for games. Would you say that is true, Dom?
Certainly a big night for games tonight. I mean, last night was certainly pretty significant for games as well. So a couple straight days of some intense hockey, and tomorrow will be another massive day too. We're getting here into the part of the first round where every game counts, and their life is not guaranteed at this point.
I would like to happily say that and we'll check in on our I was going to check in right away on the playoff bracket scores as teams are now being eliminated and sent home, but we will do so in 5 more minutes. Yeah, 5 more minutes as the oh boy. Are you kidding? That was a waffle. Why? No! Dom, I hate you! Oh, you are the worst! Why did you make me pick the lightning? I blame
you can blame me all you want. I didn't make you pick anything, and everyone will know that for the record. But I was wrong.
You convinced me I didn't want to take them further than the second round, and you convinced me! No! Oh, my bracket has crumbled!
As has mine. But hey, you never know. Maybe Ottawa can pull off the funniest thing ever, and then it wouldn't have mattered either way.
At this point, I'm hoping for nothing but humor now in the East. Because the one thing I actually got right was that the Carolina Devils series was going to go 4-1. And interestingly enough, there were 0 sweeps in the first round. Absolutely none. So, kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know if that's rare necessarily. I feel like it's been... I feel like there's, whether or not this is true, this is just me going off of the gut. I feel like there's always like one sweep per year, but maybe it's not in the first round. Maybe it comes in a later round if teams have had injuries, but there always seems to be a sweep at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a few that have happened in the first round over the last couple of years. So yeah, it's odd to say the least. So if anybody is wondering, in case you couldn't pick it up from the utter insanity that I was just uttering, Tampa is about to lose to the Florida Panthers, and Florida is about to take the series. So far, every Eastern team that has led 3-1 has concluded their series, unless you are the Toronto Maple Leafs, in which case you have not. But
yeah, not to mention every single one leading 3-1 has concluded their series, except for the Maple Leafs, but they've won 4-1, so finishing the series in 5 games. So this East, which is supposed to be hard to pick and thoroughly competitive, has shorter series than the West.
I will say, though, some of those games were coin flips, could have gone either way, changed in the last 5 minutes. I mean, Montreal absolutely could have won game 4 at home, and then all of a sudden Washington exploded, and I think that just kind of shows in that situation maybe who the superior teams really are. And I don't think this Tampa team was a bad team, but I have to say, genuinely surprised at how well this Florida team ended up dispatching them. Because
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Florida has lost so many of its key contributors from last year's cup run. I mean, the cup tax is real. And, I feel like we refer to that. Everybody wondering, the cup tax, if we haven't explained it before, is essentially when your team wins the Stanley Cup, there will always be free agents on your team who end up having an amazing playoffs. And so they anticipate having a much bigger raise in their contract that your team obviously cannot afford. You want to bring back as many people as you can from your cup run who are free agents because you want to do it again. But it is a reality in the salary cap world that you simply will not be able, to do it. So the fact that Florida, I think, was hit pretty hard by the cup tax, and that they just haven't been nearly as dominant. They've been a little shaky at points throughout the regular season. Again, regular season doesn't really account for anything when it comes to the postseason. I am still surprised, especially with, as everybody said, it's common narrative, but I think it's very true that they have played a ton of hockey the last 2, now going into 3 years. Because you have to remember that when you go all the way to the final 2 years in a row, you are playing into June. That means you have less time to heal, to train, to get your body back to peak form. Because let me tell you, you get your ass whipped through 82 games in a season. Than you do, if you get eliminated early, or if you're not going to the playoffs at all. You have all that time to rest and recover. And for those who are maybe doubtful of that fact, they're athletes, just like me. I get a bump and a bruise and I'm recovered in a few days and I'm fine. Or I get sore and I'm recovered in a few days. Let me put it to you this way, right? Let's envision a machine that has many gears inside of it. That machine runs for 82 days out of the year. Eventually, some of those gears, even if the machine is turned on and off every night at the end of the day, those gears will grind down and continue to wear away as they're used. So eventually, you need to take out the gears and replace them with new ones. Same thing towards these athletes' bodies. Yes, they, get turned on and off between games, but they do still wear down over time. Their bodies get pushed and pushed and pushed. That's why at the end of playoffs, you hear about so many injuries and crazy shit that guys were going through. So just to put that into perspective, Dom, I know I said a lot with not a lot of room for you to interject, so I'm going to pause here for a moment for you to add anything.
Well, I wouldn't be living up to my dad joke if I didn't add a metaphor. So let's go with cars. Change of tires, change of oil. And if you don't do that, it can have serious consequences for the car, or it can take a lot longer to be fixed. It can cost a lot more, and that's why I say that one. But how about this? If you go to the Stanley Cup Finals, which Florida has for 2 straight years now, you play a minimum of 16 extra games. And if all 4 rounds you play, so first round, second round, conference finals, and then for the Cup Finals, you could play a maximum of 28 extra games. But let's just say you make the Cup Finals, and that's, you swept through the first 3 rounds, and then you either sweep or get swept in the final round. You're still playing 16 extra games. That's 20% more hockey than the rest of the league. So that is a lot. That is a lot of extra wear and tear on your body. Corey, as you said, these games are every couple of days, depending on the rest in between series and how everything goes. You're playing, the rest of the league ends in April and you're playing until June. That's a long time that you're putting your body through more stress and a lot heavier stress. And what do we see here in Florida?
Yeah.
These playoffs have been incredibly physical, and I'm sure we'll talk about it and some of that with the refereeing and the inconsistencies. I feel like that's just going to come up at some point tonight. But the fact is what has Florida done? They have come out and been that physical grind team. The players who are back, be it from suspension temporarily or from injury, they have come out with some intense physicality that I don't think the Lightning could match. But you also said, talking about the collapse and just wiping, how close some of these games were, and some of these games were lost in a flash. Tampa was leading 2-1 in Game 4, about to tie up the series in Florida, where all road teams won every game in games 1 through 4. And in 11 seconds, they went from leading 2-1 to losing 3-2 with less than 4 minutes left in that game. So it just, call it luck, call it just bad timing. I don't know if it was really necessarily Tampa's fault or just good play by Florida. I don't know exactly how to best to attribute that, but Tampa went from winning that game and tying the series to losing in crushing fashion. And not to mention having lost players to injury in the game. So when we talk Tampa, Florida came ready to be physical, and everybody knows. And the playoff, no matter what you see during the regular season with the physicality, you got to multiply it by 10, maybe 100 when we get to the playoffs. It is just a different level of physicality, especially with, like I said, the inconsistent calls. You can get away with some dirtier or questionable hits, and that just rackets up the intensity even more, and it goes back and forth until it's the last person survives. And even though with the roster turnover, this Florida team is built to be frustrating, built to survive, and perhaps we should have given him more credit for, picking up guys like Marchand. He is extremely great at being an annoying person to play against, and that's something that Florida already had in spades, and so adding to that, despite all their losses, I clearly underestimated them. But at the same time, just before I pass this back to you, Corey, it was still close. Both teams scored 2 goals in the span of 11 seconds during this game. Isn't that a crazy stat? The Lightning scored 2 goals in 11 seconds in the second, and then the Panthers did it back to them in the third to get the game-winning goal. Just what an incredible turn of events both ways during this game.
Well, Dom, it is very easy to win a series when you just injure all of your opponent's players.
Yeah, that's true.
So just something to keep in mind there. The brackets have not yet updated to reflect the Tampa, Florida loss. Man, that has to be frustrating if you are Tampa Bay to lose to these guys again when I really thought they had a better team. I really did. And it's genuinely kind of shocking. I'm still sitting here in disbelief. We went from it's felt like having no series ever going to end to now all of a sudden 3 are done in the span of 2 days. Welcome to the playoffs, everybody. This is how it goes every single year. Well, okay. So this is not updated, and I imagine it's going to take a bit to update. So to speak on how everybody's brackets are doing. For some reason, my bracket is in our league twice. Don't know how it is, but
I think your bracket, wherever your bracket is, shows up at the top. So wherever your score is, they put it at the top, and then where it is in the order is further down.
So currently, we have actually one person has separated themselves from the rest of the pack, and I'll keep refreshing. We'll come back to this. Hopefully, it'll update. But for now, our current leader with 26 points, and who's actually about to have more because they picked the Tampa, Florida series correctly, is Blue Jay. So well done, Blue Jay, with, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Ys. Yes, Dom.
Shout out my little brother. That's Blue Jay.
Is that him?
Gabriel, I love you, man. Like, I love you, little bro. You want to talk about the Avs fan in my family? He is the Avs fan of the family. Like, great job. Great job, little bro.
Fuck you, Gabriel. How dare you pick better than me? Yeah, Gabriel, you're on a roll. Let's take a look at the rest of his bracket here. So, yep, they have now updated. Let me go ahead and refresh here. Nope, okay, it's still the same. So, he is currently leading with 26 points. He actually, wow. He picked both the Capitals and the Hurricanes correctly to go 4-1. So great job. He mispicked Florida and Tampa in terms of the number of games. He picked 4-3, but he did pick Florida to win. So well done on your part, my friend. But he is currently leading our bracket with 26 points. We have 1, 2.
When it updates, he should be at 36 because he'd have 10 per game correct. He'd have all 3 games correct, and then 2 of the series game totals correct. So he's gonna open up a lead here. It looks like.
Yeah. But for tied in second place, we have the Bigs BG's bracket. So that Dom from the Tanks bracket, and then my bracket. So we are actually in second, Dom. We're not doing too terribly.
Our projected points, our max possible points haven't reset yet, but those are going to take a massive hit once it reloads and we no longer have.
That was brutal. I'm pretty proud that I'm 2 for 3 so far on series in the East, though. That I'm pretty happy about. I am pretty satisfied with that. Although my bracket has crumbled, everyone, because I predicted Tampa to go all the way to the final. So bracket is shattered currently. But you know,
Yep.
that's
Sorry about that.
Let me tell you, everybody, when your bracket breaks like this, what you hope for is maximum possible chaos at that point. Fuck
Ottawa to the finals. That would be maximum possible chaos at this point.
But yes, you hope for maximum possible chaos. There we go. Pause for dramatic effect. That's what you're hoping for. So we'll wait and see what transpires. But again, I'm thankful that I at least have gotten 2 out of the 3 right, or 2 out of the 4 right so far. So come on, Toronto, you dumb pieces of shit. Oh, wait, I predicted this series to go 6 games. So, I was out thinking everybody. Everybody's like, Toronto's gonna blow it, but oh my god.
Listen, when Ottawa pulls off the funniest thing ever, I get the full 13 points for picking Ottawa in 7.
Brother, if Ottawa wins this series, I am fairly certain that the city of Toronto will go up in a firestorm. I am so convinced that it will blow up, because at that point, like, that is the ultimate meme, because Toronto has been reverse swept when they're up 3-1 in the series, but never 3-0. And and I feel bad. I feel bad for them. They don't deserve it because they look so calm in the first 3 games. They look like they had swagger. Like they were ready to fucking take this series, put all the fucking bullshit and past behind them, and to beat the stereotypes. And now everybody's just like, yo. And I don't think people necessarily want it to happen. But, oh my God, it would be so funny. My God, it would be funny. And I like the Leafs. I like the Leafs. I do. I truly and honestly do. But, oh my God.
It would be funny, and it would be giving off Joker comedy tragedy, like the two just overlapping and in sync together. Like change those jerseys to purple and green already, because it would be bad. It would be a whole nother level of bad. And because it's Toronto and because they finally topped their division this year, taking that 1 seed in the battle of the region and everything, it would just be bad to epic proportions that, I mean, it, in my opinion, was probably, it's on par, if not worse, than the one with the Sharks had that we don't need to talk anymore about. So I don't have to hold that mantle.
Worst.
I don't have to have my team hold the mantle of the worst first round loss in history. So
yes, I'm sure.
You know, I have nothing against you, Toronto, or your fans, but on behalf of the Sharks, so that we don't have to hold that mantle, go Ottawa.
Well, I would like to give a quick update. Apparently he does not now have 36 points. I don't know why, but Happy Gilly has now tied for first place, but they have a less total maximum points because they mispicked the Capitals and Canadiens series, predicting that the Habs would win that. Otherwise, we are now technically in third, Dom, but in our bottom part is Erica Hahn's bracket, and Common Avs Steamroll are currently rounding out our bottom because they, like me, also picked the Lightning to go to the finals.
Like both of us, yeah. We were, a lot of us were all in on the Lightning, so big ups to Happy Gilly and to Blue Jay.
Man, everybody wanted the Avs Lightning rematch. That would have been something. So,
and it seemed likely. It really did. And like I said, maybe we weren't giving Florida enough credit.
Yeah.
We didn't give them enough of a chance, but yeah, it was. Yeah, I guess we were all proven wrong.
And you know, one bounce goes another way. Maybe it could have gone differently. But for now, let's jump to some of the other questions here. I actually have some fun information for this one. What the heck is going on with Connor Hellebuck? Your thoughts first. Well, actually, here, let me give you this little tidbit. And then I actually got a quote from a former hockey coach on what he thinks is going wrong with Hellebuck. But I'll give you this little stat line first. Hellebuck has a 744 save percentage while in St. Louis. He's been pulled 2 games in a row, and add to that the St. Louis fans were chanting, "We want Connor."
Yeah. Why does this happen every year?
I don't know.
Helly goes from being like the standalone head and shoulders like above the league Vezina easily, and yet then he has a worse save percentage than Forgiev when it comes to playoffs time, and much worse nonetheless. So I don't get it. I call it pressure. Maybe he just, I mean, some guys just can't step up to the moment. They struggle, they crack. My theory is when you're playing in the regular season and you see a team for one night, they're not like studying you. We talk about how he's a very positionally sound goaltender, but he's not flashy. Well, the teams get better in the playoffs. You're not just playing these teams on one night and going between good teams and bad teams, depending on if they're healthy, what goalie they're starting. So many variables that happen during the regular season that are gone. You're playing the same team for at least 4 straight games. That gives that team time to watch film on you, to figure out your norms and try know where to shoot. Is it high blocker side? Is it low glove side? Where is the weakness? They have more film. They've played against you. They can study their own film and make those slight adjustments, those slight tweaks. That I think just the way he is positionally, he's not, like I said, the flashy goaltender. I think it's harder to make adjustments as a goaltender than it is as a player trying to get it past the goaltender. Wouldn't you agree, Corey?
Yeah, and it's funny when you talk to other hockey players, like just guys who are skating around on the ice, when you ask them, is being a goalie the hardest position, they'll say no. But I think if we really stop and look at it, I have always thought that being a goaltender is the hardest position, really in any sport, but particularly in hockey. Because even when it's not your fault, it's your fault, right? And it all falls to you. And if a game gets away from you, you can't, not everybody would know to blame the guys in front of them. When you see 5 goals, it's like, it's clearly all the goaltender's fault that happened, especially to the more casual fan. You see that and you're like, oh, well, clearly the goalie was just having an off night. And you're the last line of defense. When everything else fails, the game falls on you. Right. And I mean, we talk about hearing guys who can steal a game. I mean, I think Mackenzie Blackwood, honestly, in game 1 of our series here, he definitely did that because the Stars had some utterly incredible chances in game 1, and Mackenzie Blackwood stole the game. And that's where the big differences are between goaltenders who win you a Stanley Cup and goaltenders who don't. Maybe they're not always the best guys throughout the entire season, but they're the ones who have the skill, have the talent, have that extra step that they can take to steal you a game. But again, you have 5 guys in front of you who can make a difference, but at the end of the day, you are only one goaltender. The difference comes to you, and I think that pressure is immense. So I've always thought it's the hardest position.
And I agree, and I've seen it firsthand with my dad. It's also the hardest position on your knees and your back. I mean, yes, you can have injuries, and all hockey players have injuries of some sort, but it is the consistently hardest stress, regardless of if you get hit or not. And it's regular stress to the same localized areas, so it's just physically very tough. You also just imagine trying to be focused, and you have to be like, these guys are moving around super quick, but your eyes have to be on it. You've just got to be full blast, like a predator, like an animal out there, just being able to be perceiving everything around you and reacting faster than most human beings are capable of. So intensely difficult. And I think something you said is important as being the last line of defense. It's the only position that is credited with wins or losses. No other player on the ice has that benefit or weight put on their head. And no matter who's on the ice in front of you, it unless it's an empty netter, it always goes past you, like you said. So there's always some level of responsibility that will be attributed, even if you can't see the puck because of a screen or what have you, or if it was a redirection that was right in front of you. And sure, the player shouldn't in front, whoever's man that was who's supposed to cover it, so they don't have that inside position to get a redirect in front of the net. It still got past you. And maybe there's something to be said. I think what you said about Blackwood and being able to steal a game, Hellebuck, we've seen, is the most consistent goaltender during the regular season. But in the playoffs, does he have that next gear to step it up? Is he, because when you see Blackwood, and some would say he was a B plus goaltender or a B goaltender solid, I would say he's at a minimum, give him an A minus, right? Goaltender during the regular season, but he can step up and make those insane saves, those high danger saves you've talked about, Corey, that are A plus and just outside of the box, right? And you don't necessarily see Hellebuck making those saves. I think he's just
at least
in the playoffs at least. But even in the regular season, I just don't see as many flashy saves on his highlight reel.
He's not flashy. He's not flashy, and it's the way that he plays, because he's not an explosive style goaltender like Blackwood or like somebody like Ottinger or Fleury is. He's not an explosive goalie. He's just always in the right spot. So that's why you never see those big, like, oh my God, what a save by Hellebuck. No, it's just, he's just in the right place at the right time all the time. So you never really need to concern yourself with that, because he's always exactly where he needs to be.
But the flash has to do with speed and reactivity, right? If he's always where he needs to be, does he always have to make the quickest of reactions? Does he have to have the quickest glove? Well, in the playoffs, the speed, we talked about how the physicality goes up. It's faster in the playoffs. Everybody's going faster. It's back and forth through the neutral zone. The guys are flying. Guys who you don't think of as speedsters are going 110% full speed out there, and they'll go crashing into the boards if they have to, but they're gonna lay it out on the line. They're gonna take the risk. And so as a goaltender, you have to be able to adapt and play at that higher speed. And that can be tough. And I think maybe that has to do with the adjustment some too. That difficulty is, if the game is even 10%, 5% faster, can he match that click up to the next level? Maybe he can, maybe he can't. Maybe he can prove us wrong. But if Winnipeg gets knocked out at any point in this playoffs, again, the questions are going to continue to persist.
Now, Dom, I am rolling back here a little bit. Did you say that goalies want to be predators?
I didn't say that they want to be. I'm just saying you have to have the reaction time, the eyes, that instinct to be able to. We'll have that instinct to be able to. What's the word? Intuit. Just have that intuition. Have that ability to predict your opponent's move before they make it, because you have to react so fast.
Listen, Dom, listen. In today's world, I don't think anybody wants to be labeled a predator.
Unless they play for Nashville, that is.
Dude, the memes on that have been unreal. I did want to say, though, for anybody wondering, well, how can Connor Hellebuck win the Vezina if he's so booty in the playoffs? Because every major hockey award minus general manager of the year are all actually voted on prior to when the playoffs start. And I feel like there's good reason for that, just because I think there would be a lot of recency bias and maybe certain players would not be recognized if that were the case. And there may be some other awards that get awarded after the playoffs start, but that's why I think Connor Hellebuck will win it. He was the best in the regular season by far, but that's why I'm so unbelievably confused, frankly. How does a guy who had a less than 2 goals against average, is like 1.94, which is insane. How in the playoffs does this happen? I mean, it's like riding a bike. You don't just fucking forget, let alone from fucking one game to the next. Yes, I know that playoff intensity is elevated. Certain things in the regular season don't always translate to playoffs, but a goaltender's skills certainly shouldn't just drop off a cliff like it seems to for Hellebuck. And again, I'm not saying that it's all his fault by any stretch of the imagination, but the commonality exists nonetheless. because the Jets themselves also had one of the best goals against record and also goals for stat line. And yet it feels like either the team in front of him is failing him, the system is failing him, he's failing himself. I don't know. I truly don't know why it keeps happening, because they showed a scoring, like not a scoring bug, sorry, like a stat line. And it's like over the last 3 years, including this one against Vegas, Winnipeg got swept. He let in, I think it was more than 4 goals. How many times he's let in more than 4 goals? He let in more than four goals in every game they played against Vegas when they got swept. Against Colorado, when they got gentlemen swept, he let in more than 4 goals, I believe, in every game in that series. Only in this series against St. Louis has there been 2 times so far that he has let in less than 4 goals. And he let in 5 and 6, respectively, in St. Louis before getting pulled.
And he still let in 3 the first game at home in Winnipeg. That was a very close game until the end. So that was no walk in the park either at home. And it's a reasonable call out. And how about this fact? He led the league in wins on the season, right? 47 wins. Next closest goaltender, Corey, do you want to take a guess?
I do not know.
Andrei Vasilevsky at 38.
That's insane.
Eliminated just tonight.
That's insane. And
so that's, yeah, I mean, wins in the regular season do not translate to the playoffs, right? It's a different level, but that goals against average, that save percentage, that quality as a goaltender, like you said, should transfer. And so it is baffling trying to come up with a reason. I've done my best to hypothesize. I know you've got the quote and another potential theory as well. I think it's anybody's guess, really. But again, until he wins a cup, the questions are going to be there, and they have to be. He can't be on a Mount Rushmore of goaltenders for his regular season prowess. You don't win anything for that. As a team, it's a team sport. You can win all the trophies individually, but that's not how hockey works. That's not what the sport is about.
Certainly so. Well, the quote I got from my coach, and thank you very much, Coach Frank. Quote, "It seems like the pressure is getting to him." And so I asked him, what would you do in that situation if you were his coach? To which he said, "I would sit him down and figure out what's going on in his head. Something isn't clicking there. I've had goalies who've done the opposite with a terrible regular season and click when it comes to playoffs and elevate. I believe it's a mental issue. Playing 50 games a season in today's NHL is tough for a goalie. That's why Jared Bednar tries to alternate. I think the days of 50-plus games for a goalie are over with the amount of talent and skill that players have shooting the puck." End quote.
And that fatigue is not something we can see or know the impact of.
And that was the whole point. I remember that's where I came up with kind of my gear metaphor there. So that's my thought as well. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I will forget this if I don't share this. I mean, you obviously had guys like Marty Brodeur and Patrick Waugh. Those guys would play every game unless they were hurt. Like, the backup goalie was only there for, in case somebody got hurt or in case they were getting blown out and needed to get pulled. Otherwise, they never played. But I just think it's a different game. It's so much faster. And I think the fatigue is bigger. I think it's realer. Go on. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, because if things, when I talked about the reaction time and having to be alert, if the game is faster, there is more of a strain on your eyes just on that part of the game. You do have to react quicker, throw your pad to the ground. There could be more physical strain there that, again, is not necessarily visible. With the speed of the game, it can be harder to reset your mind and feel like mentally you have a chance than players used to. I mean, hell, like, The Michigan wasn't something that people were firing around trying to score. They weren't playing like hitting these pucks out of thin air and batting them in at waist height. I mean, that, yes, there were always going to be redirects and such, but the game has advanced offensively so much. And while goaltending, yes, has advanced in many ways in its own, it can't necessarily keep up, if that makes sense. I mean, and you're right. I think some guys maybe 50 plus games is doable, but he played what, almost 60 games in the regular season. That's not doable.
Yeah, I do agree with, Coach Frank here, his statement. I do think it's twofold. I think I think the man's just fucking tired. I think his body has been worn down as the season goes on because he has such a heavy and high workload more than any other goaltender, which of course is admired, but also I just think not sustainable now and not leading to postseason success. So they need to give the other guy that they have in the lineup more of an opportunity to play. And as incredible as Hellebuck is, and the Jets clearly would not have gotten the President's Trophy without him, that is very obvious, although Comrie was respectable. You need to give the guy a rest. I genuinely think that he is just overworked and I think that was a problem with Georgiev too. And so I think we're seeing that. And then also, crazily enough, comparing Georgiev and Hellebuck again, I do think there's a mental issue here. And I think when you have that hanging over your head, that's hard on a human element to just put that to the side. Like, oh yeah, every year I fucking blow it. Because the first year you do it, then that stigma starts to follow you. And then the next year you're like, okay, well, I won't do it again. And then it happens again. And it's like, oh no, is a pattern starting to form? And that sticks in your own head. As much as you try and pretend like it doesn't exist and you try and push past it mentally, it's still there. It doesn't just not exist. And so that's why I think sports psychologists are actually really important. I think it really helped Nathan MacKinnon, obviously, after he got a sports psychologist. Dude has a Stanley Cup, has a Hart Trophy, well on his way possibly to his second, a Ted Lindsay Trophy. By the way, him and Cale Makar were both nominated for the Ted Lindsay Trophy this year, which is pretty awesome. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically the MVP of the league as voted on by the NHLPA, NHL Players Association, rather than by members of the media, which is what the other awards are voted upon. Wouldn't it be cool if we got a vote someday, Dom? What if we were members of the media and we got votes for NHL awards? That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool, actually. I would be very honored to have that opportunity.
But we do perhaps have some inherent bias.
We do, but I think if we're given that opportunity, I know personally I would do my best to truly take the time to look at the film and all the players around the league and give everyone a fair shake for something like that. I think something you said, though, is important there, and I want to back up just a tiny bit. Winnipeg would not have won the President's Trophy without all the games Hellebuck started.
Yeah.
How much is the President's Trophy worth?
Nothing.
It is worth absolutely nothing.
Home ice advantage. That's what it's worth. Home ice advantage throughout the whole playoffs.
We've seen in the playoffs that home ice advantage isn't as big of a deal when everyone lifts their level. I mean, a lot of teams have won on the road already. I mean, you have to be capable of winning on the road. You have to be capable of winning at home. You know this. If you look at a 7-game series, it's only a 1-game difference. It's only one extra game potentially at home.
The Avalanche won their Stanley Cup on the road. So, yeah.
Exactly.
You're
so, at this level of compete, if you're good enough to be in the playoffs, if you're a legit roster, and you know you are, one, having your other goaltender be ready for relief is great, but two, prioritizing the playoffs is more important. Screw the trophy that's worth nothing. Hell, maybe this is the answer to the President's Trophy curse. If we went back, Corey, and we did this research, obviously not right this minute, and we looked at the last 10 years and just keeping local, let's say 15, go back 2010 to 2025, and we look at the President's Trophy every year and how far they went, and check how many games their starting goaltender played during the regular season.
Ooh.
Is this the solve to why the President's Trophy is a curse? Did we just figure it out right here in lifetime?
Oh my God. Because I was going to say, I know we looked at the President's Trophy curse before and just seeing how far teams made it, but that is an interesting correlation, Dom. We will have to investigate that, I think, further. So everybody keep an eye out. Future Captain Avalanche essay coming. This genuinely might be an interesting conundrum. Well, I am making a note of that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Hello, Dom. I was gonna
just
say.
yes, sorry, just a theory. I'm glad you seem to like it, but it was just an idea. I'm just wondering now. Like I'm intrigued. Like I have no necessary basis, but I'll take your coach and take our previous conversation, and I'm just gonna try to see how well do those two things mesh together. Because think about like that Bruins run. How many games? How many? I mean, let's like what was it in 2023? That 65 games won.
Yeah.
I don't remember the goal. Was that the year where the goaltender situation with the injury, or
That was Olmark and Swayman, and apparently Olmark was injured in the series.
yeah, well, everyone gets injured.
Well, it's kind of worse when it's your goaltender. But,
Yes.
All right, we have, as we always say, perseverated on Connor Hellebuck long enough. So I will move on to our next kind of point of conversation here. I have two questions, but they can really be rolled into one. One is, have the refs lost control? And to follow that, is the officiating satisfactory? And the two simple answers to that question are yes and then no.
Yeah, the refs have absolutely lost control. These games are getting more physical, and the calls are making less and less sense with every game that goes by. Series to series, it's super inconsistent. So yeah, I think they have lost control, and I really hope that looking ahead to the second round, they can set a new baseline and establish, hey, that nonsense in the first round, new opponent, new refs, new series. This is the line, this is the rule, this is how we're going to call it, and do that consistently across the board, like have all the refs in one meeting, because it's been pretty bad out there.
Yeah, I'm going to be real. That's going to take several meetings, not just one. But I have never been one to like to blame losses solely on officiating, because you get calls that go your way too. And if you fail to convert on those, that is your own fault there. But sometimes when you get calls that are going against you, first of all, that are so bad that your captain is calling them preseason calls, and your coach, who is usually very calm, respectful of a referee, says that we will most certainly be having 2 new referees in our next game. I think there's an issue here. Also, the big thing that people have talked about, and you said it, is consistency. Consistency. And it seems to be lacking from game to game. One game, something will be called. You know what, Dom? You make a great point. Brandon Hagel gets elbowed in the head by Aaron Ekblad, right? Elbowed in the fucking head. He's in concussion protocol. He isn't there for his team. He is injured. Lightning lose tonight. And that wasn't even called in the game. Obviously, Ekblad's been suspended, but that wasn't even called. And then Sam Malinsky, who I admit it was absolutely an errant elbow, finds the face of shit-ass Mason Marchment, and they call that. As they should. They call that. How are we not calling it when you see a guy purposefully, and I know we had a conversation about this, you know what you're doing. You cannot tell me as a player, I don't give a shit if anybody ever wants to use the argument, well, you don't know, you never play the game. No. Fuck that. You as a player know what you're doing with your body. If you are picking up your elbow at someone's head and throwing it, you know what the fuck you're doing. And Aaron Ekblad clearly had an intent to injure. That's why he was suspended. But the fact that you're not calling it and you're right there is ridiculous. And then you're getting calls where a player takes a dive into a stick into another guy who's not even paying attention to him. Yeah, you got to have control of your stick, but Josh Manson was behind the play. Nothing was happening. You can see it on the replay. Jamie Benn runs into his stick and then flops like a fish on the ground. It is, without getting into this section, because I want to keep it to refereeing, but that is an incredible lack of honor and integrity for competing for the sports' greatest trophy. That's fucking pathetic. I don't give a shit if you have a game to win. If you have to take dives, which have happened numerous times in this series that have not been called. And Nathan McKinnon in that same game got cross-checked to the back of the head. And that wasn't called. It's fucking bullshit. Yeah. It's bullshit.
A cross-check to the back of the head is not called, but the guy who can see the stick and skates into it face first and flops, that gets called. All right,
and I'm fairly certain that is when the game started to get away from the Avs, who made a good comeback push. So it's bullshit. And I understand. It is a human job. And you and I always complain about like offside challenges that really, it wouldn't have meant anything if they would have come in the zone a half a second later, because the game should be judged at game speed. I am absolutely a supporter of that. Always. But I mean, it's obvious that a lack of consistency is present here, and it is causing a problem. That now people are getting hurt, and that's where the loss of control is. You have dudes, as entertaining as it is, you have guys falling into their own benches, beating on each other. There are 4 refs for however many guys end up on the ice at any given time. 4 refs for 12 guys, if it's just a normal thing, or 4 refs for up to 50 plus guys if everybody comes off the bench and starts scrumming. And, you know, I think you have a responsibility as an official, even with physicality elevated in the playoffs, to set a precedent and keep people from getting hurt, because nobody deserves to not have a chance to play for their team because somebody else wanted to be a fuck ass and pull off some dirty shit.
Yeah, I mean, I sent you a message and saying they need to get it under control because someone's going to get seriously injured.
And it's happened.
And we've talked about it. Yeah, it has happened. I mean, Hagel's probably concussed right now. I'm like 95% sure. So, you know, is taking out Ekblad for 2 games really an effective punishment for a guy who is going to have a concussion and be further at risk of CTE? Now that's taking it to the extreme, but his team is also eliminated. Big player for his team too. And the way that momentum went in that game with that non-call, I mean, it has a major impact that 1-2 game suspension really does not do justice to, and it's too much after the fact. After the fact does not discourage any of that behavior from his teammates. You know, they can finish the game. They don't have to worry about suffering the consequences in game and then figure out their rotation. They have an opportunity to reset. It's not effective. Policing after the fact does not keep people safe. It doesn't. It just catches the guilty party. But again, it doesn't keep any of these players safer. And I'm all for physical playoffs and clean hits where it's like you hit a guy more often, like even the fastest guys. You've seen McKinnon throwing hits out there because it's playoff hockey. But that doesn't mean that everything is therefore just a legal hit and it's playoff hockey, and then you call it ticky-tack shit where someone trips over a skate when someone is they're skating normally and then the guy goes behind them and trips over their skate and you call that tripping, or runs their face into a stick. Fucking Jamie Benn, you bastard. Like, it's some bullshit. It's some terrible refereeing in multiple ways, and it's really, there's no good excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. And honestly, this is what the NHLPA is for.
Who continuously fails at their job.
Yeah, this is what they're supposed to be there for, to protect the players, to make a push about these things, to demand better. So, you know, I don't know how it gets better unless they do their job.
And when you're not setting that precedent, you end up with what the Tampa Bay and Florida series ended up being, in that they seemed intent on killing each other, intentionally, no less. And there's been plenty of accidental penalties, but there have been on both ends. Like, it's neither Florida nor Tampa alone. It was both of them. Numerous attempt to injure, and that is an ugly look. And it has resulted in multiple players' nights ending early, whether it's misconduct, injury. No one deserves that, right? And the playoffs are more physical, as I said, yes. And you should respond if someone takes a run at your guy. You should get into your fight. You should settle it that way. But no one should be trying to injure in my mind, another human being and taking them out of the game. And that's why I hate fucking arguments for fucking old head hockey, man. Oh, well, if he did that, we would have just thrown an elbow at his head. Fucking blah, blah, blah. That's stupid. That's bullshit. Fuck you. Truly.
It's a different game. It's a different game now.
It shouldn't have been that way back then. And I've said it time and time again. Fuck you. All those guys are suffering from fucking CTE now. Those are the reasons they fucking... No, that... Never mind. I'm not going to say that. But you know what the effects of CTE are.
I do know the effects of CTE, and you're right. That is why all of those guys are suffering now later in life, and will probably have
numerous other issues as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there is no defense for it. Thankfully, it is a better game now. It is a more beautiful game to watch.
I'd like to think. And
we talked about that with the offense and everything, but that doesn't mean you have a license to
kill,
to just go out there and be an asshole, be trying to put someone in the hospital. That doesn't do you any good. Do you feel good about yourself injuring someone? When we talk about going out there and doing something good in the world, do any of these players, can they look in the mirror and say, do I really feel good about myself for going out there and trying to destroy a guy's life? What if you end up being teammates next season? Yeah. Like you're wearing colors on a jersey, and I get it. We all get super into it and competitive as fans as well. We want to see our team win, and you're going out there, going to war, as we say, with doing battle with your brothers, and you want your team to win, and you want to defend your guys. That's fine. You can defend your guys without taking heads off of their guys. You can just play hard, good, sound hockey. That is doable. That is allowed. It's not just the playoffs. Who can hit each other harder competition starts.
And somewhat in defense of the refs here, I think the rules are too loose. There's too much room for interpretation, and that shouldn't be how it is. To me. I think, like, especially, let's look at the most common one, goaltender interference, right? There is no set definition still on what this is. And you'll see two calls back to back in a night where it's called goaltender interference the night before, and then the next night it's not. And then everybody's up in arms. Like, okay, well, then what is it then? And why is it goaltender interference here and not here when they're literally two identical plays? But then when you have other situations happening where, you have to get good old Dave Jackson. Dave, do you agree with this call or not? Oh, well, it's up to the interpretation of the referee, so I think it's this, and this. Blues just scored to tie the game, by the way. But I think that's stupid. With certain things, there should not be any room for an interpretation. It should be, this is a slash, this is a cross check, this is this. And yeah, obviously there's some, lines that can be crossed. Like with a cross check, you have guys kind of hitting dudes with their sticks when they're in the corners, they're digging in the dirty areas, and eventually if you take one too many or you go a little bit too hard, then it's called a cross check. But if you're kind of keeping it in line, sure, whatever. But I just think there needs to be more solid lines drawn for what is and what isn't anything, because I think that's what's causing a lot of this inconsistency.
I agree, and I mean, if the rules aren't consistent, it is fair to say, how can the refs be expected to call a fair, consistent game? And I mean, as fans, it's hard for us to understand too. Like we don't know if the experts who you're calling in for, hey, Gene Steratore, do the NFL thing. Well, what's the point at the NHL level if they don't even know the answer? They're just guessing. They might as well be the rest of us. They're not an expert on anything if the rule is that in limbo and in flux. And the players don't know what's legal. You're right, is part of the problem. If they don't know what they can and can't do, they can't reasonably be expected to follow the rules. So
I mean, in all fairness, they can reasonably be expected not to fucking throw an elbow in someone's face. That's usually pretty
100% true. But when we're talking about goaltender interference,
I know what you're getting at though, with regards to that point.
Right. So
I just had to throw in a bit of a cheeky one there.
No, cheeky. But no, you're right. It's a problem, and it really shouldn't be, especially if the game is going to continue growing the way we hope it does, and being more visible, more recognized, more appreciated. This is the type of thing that the league needs to get together. I don't know if it's the commissioner. I don't know if it's the NFLPA. I don't know if it's
NFL?
the coaches.
Are we playing football?
Sorry,
on ice, Tom?
NHL. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, it's in the playoffs right now. They're playing football on ice. They are headhunting right now.
It feels like they are. No kidding.
So yes, right now there might as well be the NFLPA going out there and just causing as much damage as possible. But somebody, I don't know what organization it has to be, needs to get together this offseason and define what that rule is. They need to make it clear cut. Does there have to be, like, we have these cameras that can see if there is a fraction of the puck on the blue line for offside, or on the red line for whether or not a goal is good or not, or if there's just a fraction of it that's not a cross. It should be simple enough to say there's a fraction of the skate in the blue paint. You made contact with the goaltender. That's interference. Just what's the line? If your foot is in the paint and you touch the goaltender, is that the rule? Then done. It's that simple. He's not in the paint. He touched the goaltender. Oh, well, the goaltender came out too far. Not goaltender interference, right? That it should be more clean cut, at least in that sense. And I know sometimes there's times where like a goaltender interference happens and their stick gets hit and that causes them to turn so they can't play their position. And I think those type of things should be reasonably able to be clarified enough and legislated. Like if you are turning the goaltender, if you've pulled the stick away from them that they can't effectively be squared up, that I feel like that's not something that's has much room for interpretation. Am I overestimating here?
No.
So I'll stop my rant about it.
That's a fair rant. That's why we're here.
It needs to get better. I don't have the answer, and I don't think any of us do. But with the number of people,
peons, no.
But with the number of people in the NHL as players, as refs, I mean, just all the stuff that happens behind the scenes to put together a season and be able to make it happen and to have all the referees there has to be something, right? There has to be some method of communicating the standard here so that all teams understand and the rule is clear. And I know I referenced the NFL because all the coaches get together and owners, and they all have meetings and they will vote on what rules are going to be and what is the definition of those rules. If the NHL does not have that, it probably should, because then we can solve these issues of goaltender interference. And then the refs actually have an easier time legislating the game and can do a better job when it comes to the physical hits and everything, and making sure that is what is focused on and emphasized, not being the problem that we have today, so that we have less and less dirty hits, less and less unnecessary injuries. And there we go. Brought it full circle. Got us back there.
There you go. Well, I'm going to do things a little out of order here. I was going to talk about some series next, but I want to talk about the Avalanche because this week, thankfully, we still get to talk about the Avalanche right now. And I'm very happy about that. And boy, oh boy, do I hope that next week that, you know, it could change. And I hope it changes in the way that I no longer have to talk about the Dallas Stars. And I instead get to talk about the Avalanche versus whoever they're going to play next. That's what I hope I get to do. This is playoff hockey, baby. But we're going to talk about game 4 first, obviously, because that's the next one that comes after 3. And boy, oh boy, if you watch this game, it was fun. But I'll just give you my period by period summaries. So yeah, this was April 26th, this game at Ball Arena. Game 4. So for period 1, I'd like to start you off with a lovely quote from my younger brother, which was, "You think a force in nature is going to be stopped by some glitter? I don't think so."
What a quote. What a quote. Put that on a plaque somewhere, please. I will put it on the wall behind me and look, or I'll just put it in front of me so I can see it every episode.
So for anybody having any doubts going into game 6 here, just remember that one. You think a force in nature is going to be stopped by some glitter? I don't think so. Well, the Avs did exactly what they wanted to do for this period. Adjustments in both play style and attitude were made. They were throwing everything at Ottinger and making sure he was under siege. But this wasn't without some heroics from Blackwood, who was standing on his head once again. But the Avs, who have had special teams trouble, converted on both the power play and the PK, not necessarily in that order. Logan O'Connor did what he does best during the PK and ran Harley over to get the puck up ice on a 2-on-1, and he buries it himself. That set the tone and a clear message once they scored again. Oh, wait, sorry. The Avs set a tone and a clear message, scored more than once, which is a big point of emphasis on Ottinger. Not only did they score on the PK, but the PP, as I already mentioned. So that's a big deal. That matters a lot. Going into period 2, though, the quote was, "Who says hockey can't be romantic?" That was from the legendary Paul Bissonnette, and you're going to find out why. Talk about keeping it going and more. The Avalanche demonstrated pure dominance. At one point, the Stars went over 9 minutes without a shot and also 0 scoring chances. Talk about cycling to death. Yet, shockingly, the Avs actually scored off the rush with the new look second line, and the comeback is nearly complete for Gabriel Landeskog, who scored his first goal in 1,041 days. The emotions are truly unreal. The Avs continue to have a high shot volume. They started the third period with 35 shots to the Stars' 16. You could genuinely not have asked for a better period from the Avs. The discipline was stellar after a couple poorly taken penalties in the first. And to Ottinger's credit, as the announcers who are clearly biased to Dallas, it's been a little ridiculous. He had an amazing period despite letting in 3 overall. But to go back to Gabe Landeskog's goal, obviously, I didn't even realize it was Gabe Landeskog at first. And then I did. I went around hugging everyone in my house. But you can watch on the replay. They show a camera to the crowd and everybody's going apeshit. I can only imagine how loud that building was when Gabe Landeskog scored. It was a truly full circle moment, I think. I think it'll be maybe like a almost full circle. The full circle will be if he lifts the Stanley Cup at the end of this. That would be full circle moment. But it goes out to the crowd, and you just see this young couple grab each other, and they just start passionately making out after Gabe Landeskog scores. So hockey could just make you feel that type of way, I guess. Maybe it was a bet. Maybe you looked at her and he's like, "Hey, babe, Gabe Landeskog scores, you gotta kiss me." And she was like, "Okay, baby." And then it happened. So he's like, "Fuck yeah."
I mean, there's the Super Bowl, baby. Is there going to be a Gabe Landeskog, baby?
I think there is, man. They were going for it without getting too graphic. Although I know, based on our age metrics for who listens, I don't think anybody super young listening. Maybe besides Gabriel there, but they were going for it. It was crazy. So it was a pretty funny moment. And of course, leave it to Paul Bissonnette to pick that out in the crowd when no one else probably would have seen it. So it was pretty funny. But I mean, an absolutely incredible moment, because again, people said, "Well, what Gabe Landeskog are you going to get back when he returns? You know, is he going to be a step behind? Is he just going to be a good, solid depth player, but he'll still be there, but never really return to his former glory?" It's like he never fucking left. He looks incredible. It's almost, not almost, it is truly shocking that he has come back to be as dominant as he is, because the Avalanche in this game had an advantage of 14-1 shots on goal when Landeskog was on the ice. So not only is he helping generate insane offense, but he's playing his Gabriel Landeskog style of hockey and keeping the other team from doing what they want to do. Amazing. Truly.
And he's come out and been physical, and they said it, but he truly can play on any line. We've seen him start on the third line. We've seen him playing on the first power play unit at points. So truly coming back and doing the all-purpose captain, truly full circle, fully rounded hockey player.
It's so great to have him back. And I cannot even express, and I don't think I did it enough last week, just how happy this makes me. This man's my favorite player for a reason, but just what he does for this team, what he does for this city, what he does for the fan base. And as someone so poignantly noted, the number one job as Avalanche captain is being a counterbalance to Nathan MacKinnon's pure insanity, which is absolutely true. So it is great to have Gabriel Landeskog back as that force, both on the ice, but also as that voice in the locker room to helpfully keep the boys steady as we push through what is obviously a very tough series. But finally, for period 3 here, the Dallas Stars had pulled Jake Ottinger. And I genuinely at the time did not know why, other than I thought he must have been hurt or something because he had been outstanding. But I later learned that it was a mercy pull. And as the hockey guy so eloquently stated, you don't want your number one goaltender to die, because he was doing everything in his power to prevent the Avalanche from getting any more than they had. If he hadn't played the way he did, it would have been 7-0 far and away, right? But that was why it was a mercy pull. You know, Pete DeBoer just thought, I'll rest him up for game 5, which unfortunately clearly worked. So there you go. But he was outstanding. In the first 3 games, though, Colorado had 71 shot attempts over the course of 3 games. And for anybody who doesn't know, a shot attempt is not just a shot on goal, but it is one that rings off the post, is, I think, around the net, yes? Or no, a block. A block would be it. I don't know if
block
around
would
the
count
net.
as a shot attempt. I think.
I don't know
I
if
think if
around
it's
the net
clean,
counts.
if it's clean around the net, it has to be like a general region because it can't be like a clear pass. So it's one of those things where I don't think
No, a miss does count. What am I talking about? Yeah, I was thinking about it. Yeah, so a block, a shot, or a miss all counts, and a post all count as shot attempts. The Avalanche in game 4 alone had 91. I think it actually ended up being 93. Nothing more to add other than they just closed out the game exactly how they needed to. Mackenzie Blackwood gets the shutout, and apparently Dallas stole the fucking puck like the fucks that they are. But I did hear that he got it back, apparently. I think either Devon Taves chased it down or Jamie Benn actually shot it down the ice. After game 5, I will never forgive Jamie Benn for anything ever again, but I am fairly certain that Mackenzie Blackwood did get his shutout puck. And he is second in the playoffs for save percentage with a .939 save percentage and a 1.6 goals against. Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow.
He doesn't have any playoff experience. I don't know if he'll be able to elevate. Yeah, you weren't getting this out of Alexander Georgiev. So
listen, I was high on Blackwood and I told everyone to just wait and see, let him cook, but I don't think I was even expecting those stat line to be that good.
Yeah. So the emotions got incredibly high in this game, and I don't think that's going anywhere. One of the most incredible games of hockey I've ever seen played, bar none. It was pure dominating force. And I believe that the Avalanche at their best, which this was, is better than any other team playing right now. So how do the Avalanche follow up this game, you may ask? Well, they followed up with game 5, which I stopped taking notes for because I was, oh my God. I'm not even going to read the little notes that I have here. I have never in my life watched, and I've watched a fuck ton of hockey. Dom knows this. I not only watch all 82 of the Avalanche's games in the year, and I don't think I missed one this year. Maybe one because of like a movie or something, because me and my family have family time every Friday. But I also watch hockey every day that it's on. When I'm at work on Saturdays, yes, I work on the weekends, it's ass. And Hockey Saturday is on, where we live, games start at 11. I have that shit on. I watch probably easily 300 hockey games in a year, probably more. This was the most frustrating game of hockey I have ever had the displeasure of witnessing. Bar none. I probably said bar none already. I'm so upset about it. I was dreading as it was happening. I was thinking about this podcast, just utterly dreading having to talk about this. I've thankfully had some time to digest and process it. But this is not the game you want to lose. Because instead of coming back to Ball Arena with a chance to close out the series, the Avalanche now have to fight for their lives to push a game 7. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I fucking, and everyone else, I believe that they can do it because they have demonstrated that they can play like that. They can beat the Dallas Stars. And while I expected Dallas's pushback in game 5 to be a sizable one after getting dominated, you expect that. I didn't expect the Avalanche to roll over on their backs. And to their credit, they did start to push back in the game. They made it 3-2 off of some great play. And then suddenly, through some bullshit on the Stars and the Avalanche alike, the game just slips away. And I knew it was all for naught after that. They were not getting that many past Ottinger, who's been great this entire series. And I think that goal 9 seconds in threw them off. And they never looked back. And then the second goal, which is also an absolute fluke, that's just bullshit. You take away those two, it's a much closer game. And so, yeah.
I think it's the same thing that Stars fans were saying about game 1 when you have the fluky goal off the skate of Nichushkin and everything. And it happens. But that, I think more importantly, that goal 9 seconds in, I had my friend Brendan at the game. He's in our bracket pool, fun fact. He was saying just how that really took the air out of the team just right away.
Exactly.
As the opposing fan in the building, you never really had a chance to get into it as the crowd and establish and give that pushback. It was just starting on your heels. So I think more than anything that had the serious impact.
Yep. And I agree. So I genuinely don't want to talk about it for that long. I'm sure you all watched it. I really wanted to turn it off, and I think I did after the empty netter ended up going in, because at that point, there's like 2 minutes left. And I will always try and watch games through all the way to the end, but the frustration was unbelievable. And it's hard. It is hard for me to, as I already kind of mentioned, delineate those emotions from kind of the, I don't want to say business side of it, but from like the journalistic side of it, where I know I have to and want to. Well, I guess I don't have to. I don't make any money from this, but I want to. And I now, after what's happened today, I feel like I do have to, as I have an obligation to write about and talk about these games. That's hard. I am admittedly, at the end of the day, first and foremost, a fan. I love this team. I love the sport of hockey. But I more than anything else love the Colorado Avalanche. And it isn't just like the players. Like, yeah, I love Mikko Rantanen, but I'm not going to fucking root for the Stars because Mikko Rantanen went that way. And some people are like that. Some people really like specific players, and they will root for the teams that those players are on. And like, if Sidney Crosby, sorry,
I don't want to cut you off, but no, I do want to speak on behalf of those fans, because if you're in my situation and the Sharks are nowhere near the playoffs for a couple of years, and you got a player like Burns, a player like Pavelski, these guys who were big for your franchise, I just want to validate that it is okay. Yeah. Guys who were a long time with your franchise, your team is now in the dumps, your playoff window is closed, and you don't want them to not get a cup just because they didn't get it with you. There's a right way to do that. But you don't just instantly pivot teams for one player, at least not most of us most of the time. And I think that's what you're saying, Corey.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's totally a normal thing. Like if Sidney Crosby went to the Avalanche, I'm sure tons of Penguins fans would root for the Avalanche, and I'm sure tons of Sidney Crosby fans would then root for the Avs and root for Sid on the Avs. Like not necessarily the Avalanche, but they want to see Sid do well, so they'd root for the team in turn. So I'm saying that's fine. My whole point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter to me ultimately who's on the team, although it'd be hard to see like Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar go. I love this team. I love the Colorado Avalanche organization. Obviously, I love the players that are on it, but my loyalty and my love for this team is indescribably deep. So watching playoff hockey is an emotional experience for me. Yes, I absolutely recognize it's only game. Why you have to be mad? That is me, Ilya Bryzgalov. But I'm emotionally invested in it. I care about it. If the Avalanche, God forbid, get eliminated at any point, it's an emotional toll. I'm pretty bummed out for the next day. Is it gonna determine my mood for the rest of the season? No. I will still obviously watch the playoffs and have fun watching hockey because I'm a hockey fan. But it's hard. I love this team. I want to see them succeed. I am invested in this. So watching a game like Game 5 really, what I'm trying to say is hard. It's hard. And again, it doesn't dictate my entire life. It doesn't dictate my entire happiness. That would not be healthy. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I was not emotionally invested. And, you know, if you're a non-sports fan, that's maybe hard to wrap your head around. Like, why would you get that involved over a stupid game? And I'm not trying to say that you're wrong, but I think everybody has things that are like that for themselves. And mine just happens to be the game of hockey and the Colorado Avalanche.
And it's important to be passionate about something.
I don't know if anything what I said just, I don't even know if anything that I just said made sense.
I think what you're trying to say is that you watch all of these games. You are a committed fan, so much so that you love the sport of hockey, not just your team in the Avalanche, but you love watching hockey all the time, no matter who is playing. And you know that everybody has passions, and your passion is hockey as a fan, and now as we're not a broadcaster, as a commentator, as a podcaster, it is something that is core to you, and you tied it into how important it is to do a good job and being passionate but also knowledgeable of what we talk about here on the podcast. But I think also something important is, you know, it you mentioned how for some people it might just be a game, but that's not the case for everyone. For some of us, it is always just a game, and we know that. But Corey, I think you've committed so much of your time, energy, attention. This game is so core to you and your family. It's allowed to be more than that for you, and it's allowed to be more than that for everyone, just as any other hobby is. So it can be a core piece of your personality. And so I think it can be whatever you want it to be, and that's part of the beauty of it.
Yes, and to kind of reverse it a little bit, I am a hockey fan, and more than that, I am a Colorado Avalanche fan. And I think you put that well, Dom, that it's like with anything, when you sink a lot of time, effort, energy into it, you want to see it do well. And that's how I feel about the Avalanche. Not only do I sink now a lot of time, energy, effort into making sure I can watch them every time that they're on, but also, you know, writing about them, covering them. So yeah, you help me organize that a little bit. So I obviously would like to see this fucking team that hurts me succeed. I genuinely, I sit and I ask myself, I'm like, why do I watch this sometimes? Why do I do this to myself? I love this sport and I love this team more. Now, I do want to say that does not mean I would ever fucking throw hands with an opposing fan. Yeah, people frustrate me. People talk shit online. I am now learning that firsthand after our latest social media post popped off. Thank you for our almost 100 new followers, by the way. If you're one of those new followers, I meant to say welcome. Our social media account is actually closing in on 250 followers, which that number might seem small to you on Instagram, but to us, that is massive. So if you are one of those listeners who not only liked the memes, but ended up deciding, I'll listen to this silly podcast that this account also does, we appreciate you. So thank you. But yeah,
thank you for joining us, whether this is your first time or if this is your 31st time listening to us. We appreciate that you have decided to take the time out of your day to listen to us talk about hockey and have our rambles, have our passion be shared with you. And as always, we hope there's something that from it you can take and enjoy. But no matter what, thanks for joining us and letting us share our thoughts.
That's right. Well, Dom, anything else you'd like to say about the Colorado Avalanche before we move into some of our other series here?
The only thing I have to say right now, and it's if
it hurts my feelings, I'm going to beat you up.
No, you're not. It's unfortunate. Is I said last time that the Avalanche needed to improve their power play, and I just don't know if I've seen enough of that. I think they're still struggling to really capitalize on those opportunities when available. And the only other thing I have to say is, good Lord, please do not let this game go to overtime, because I don't know what's going on.
Dom, I will have a fucking heart attack. You will have to call 911. I will die.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking. My chest hurt after the last game.
Yeah, so it's not, whatever it is, it isn't working. It's just not breaking the Avalanche way, and it's just gonna be stressful, like you said. So let's just have an Avalanche clean win.
I'm
Please score some power
begging.
play goals. Like, can we get Landy, McKinnon, Makar all on the board in the power play in the first 2 periods of the game? That would be spectacular.
Please. Well, the brackets have since updated. So you're right, Dom. And I'm not going to say anything else because the actions for the Avalanche have done plenty of talking already. So instead of just going kind of series by series here, I mean, we will, but I liked this segment last week. So let's check in on each of the series and just kind of give our quick thoughts on how it's going or perhaps how it ended. So first of all, quick update now that the brackets finally updated. Yeah, Gabriel is crushing it with 36 points with still a max of 401 possible points. Absolutely crushing it, Gabe. Happy Gillies is now solidified in second at 26 points. We have a three-way tie for third with the big BG's bracket, your bracket, Dom, and my bracket. And then our bottom places are still our bottom places. But to go ahead and use Gabe as our guiding bracket here, Dom, my question is, what series have really been capturing your attention?
Capturing my attention. That is a good question. So obviously I have been captivated. First of all, the West has been just better series to watch, and
Truly.
with work schedule when I get home, I can watch every minute of those games and switch between them. Whereas the first Eastern Conference game that's starting at 5, I typically miss the first period, maybe more. So whichever one's the game one on over there, I haven't been able to catch all of it. I think we talked a lot about Florida and Tampa, so I don't know how much more we need to go into it.
Don't really need
It
to
was
talk about them
physical.
anymore.
It was physical. I think it was closer than the result of Florida winning in 5 games. It felt like it was more than 5 games. I guess the one thing we can say that we all knew was going to be the case, Carolina and New Jersey.
Yeah.
First two games we talked about it. Carolina was just mopping the floor with them. But New Jersey made it a series. Those next 3 games were all very close and competitive games.
They were.
2 of them going to overtime. The final one going to double overtime.
It's tough, though, because New Jersey led by 3 in game 5, and they couldn't hold on to it. And I think that's just, to win the Stanley Cup, you have to get lucky. And the New Jersey Devils were incredibly unlucky. Not only did they come into this series injured, but then they lost 3 additional defensemen in this series.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Also, a 3-goal lead. We've seen it in the modern NHL when we talk about offensive firepower. It is the most devious and disguised lead. It is, you cannot let your foot off the gas. Hell, we've seen teams be up 4 or 5. The Carolina Hurricanes were firing the puck. They had 50 shots on net by the end of that game. But they scored all 4 goals in the second period.
They were, in fairness, the fact that they made it in that game to double OT is all on Jacob Markstrom, who played one of the most insane overtime periods I have ever seen. The Devils looked like they were on a penalty kill the entire period. They got 1 shot in 20 minutes. And Carolina, I think, got almost 20, maybe more, on Markstrom, who saved every single one. But Carolina was hammering New Jersey. It was genuinely a matter of time before it went in. And, you would have hoped New Jersey could have turned it around for double OT, but taking a double minor was a death sentence. That's it, especially after how dominant Carolina had been. So this does not really come as a shock. So I'm glad at least one of my matchups was right here.
And yeah, we predicted it perfectly, both of us. The giving the Devils 5 games because they didn't roll over. This wasn't a sweep.
No,
they won a game straight up. They forced overtime twice. One of them winning the overtime. They really did try. And if we're talking about should have, if they played better offense, they could have won this game against Carolina. Yes, Markstrom let in 4 in the second period, and he was giving up like 4 goals on 16 shots.
To me, that's defense. I think they had the offense. They got 3 goals. They did that.
They got 3 goals.
But then they just couldn't close it out.
Yeah, they got a 4th, but they also had power play opportunities and didn't convert. Like once they had that lead, they were able to tie it up with Carolina, but they were never able to really enforce their will again. Once Carolina's offense was back in the game, they weren't getting the puck on their sticks or getting the puck on the net, and that's a huge problem. And that, I mean, that happened. We'll talk about the West in a little bit, but that happened with the Kings in Edmonton last night. The difference in shots on net was astronomical. So that can make a huge difference on momentum and just having chances at all. If you can't put the puck on the net, you don't have a chance to score, which really limits your chance to win. And that's why I say that. But you're right. It wasn't Markstrom's fault for all 4 of those goals, but the fact that he allowed 4 goals on, I think it was 16 shots, and finished with 5 goals allowed on 50 tells you that, I mean, if it weren't for like 10 minutes in the second period, he played a virtually perfect game as a goaltender. You can't ask anything more of him.
You're telling me that you need to shoot the puck on the net in order to score?
You what?
I know, it's a groundbreaking idea. I hope to patent it.
No fucking way. Well, I hope the Avalanche learned that, because they learned it for game 4 and then forgot it for game 5. So tends to help. Tends to make your job a little easier. Like I always said, you don't need to have any defense if you just have offense, and that's what the Avalanche did. If you just sit in your opponent's zone, continuing to shoot at them, you don't really need to defend ever. So yeah. Anyway,
best defense is a strong and relentless offense.
That's right.
Some might say. But I mean, ultimately, in the end, like we said, the Hurricanes were the first team to reach the second round, and I don't think that was much of a surprise. But followed closely behind here by the Capitals, if we're ready to transition to that series a little bit, who also finished the Canadiens in 5 games, though I don't know if this series felt like closer than perhaps the Carolina New Jersey one did.
I think it did. I think the Canadiens, who had literally no expectations, did a good job. I think their biggest problem is they just weren't getting secondary scoring. Their big guys were doing work. I mean, they were doing well, and this series almost went longer. They almost won that game in the Bell Center, but I think it just came down to Washington had a deeper team. They lost Sam Montembeault, so Washington ended up getting the edge in goaltending, and Ovi also did Ovi things, unfortunately for.
Ovi did Ovi things, and this, as the series went on, this was an increasingly physical series. And when you're standing toe to toe against, I mean, the Great 8, he can throw a fucking hit. People forget how physical he can be.
Isn't he
Tom Wilson
all time in hits?
I actually think he might lead all time in hits.
Now I gotta find out. Keep going.
So. It's just a physical team. When they ended up into that type of battle, it just wasn't in their favor. And I thought they would go 6 games. I think they were very close to going into a 6th game. He
is 3rd all time, by the way.
Okay, way to go. Good job. They really weren't in tonight's game enough, in my opinion. Trailing 3-0 after 2 periods, it was just not something they can really realistically come back from. That first goal from Ovechkin tonight, did you see? Just won the draw back. It was like a second from face-off victory till the puck was in the net. It was clean.
I did not catch the first parts of the game tonight, unfortunately.
Well, I saw it on the highlights. Let me pull it up so I can show you.
Yes, please.
But please tell me let's talk about this top line, because Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Caulfield, they all got on the board a bunch. They are really quite possibly have an argument for the best line in the NHL for the next 10 years.
I think that's going to become a 3-headed monster, because back in the Avalanche's 2022 days, that 3-headed monster was McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, and God, it was glorious. God, it was fucking glorious. I missed that. I can't lie. So it would not surprise me if that in the future becomes a 3-headed monster. I think you're right. I think it has very much a chance of being a 3-headed monster. For anybody wondering, though, the players ahead of Alex Ovechkin in all-time hits. Alex Ovechkin is currently at 3,743 hits. in 1,491 games. But remarkably, the two people ahead of him have played almost 500 less games than he did. So it just tells you how much these people in the lead hit. So in second place is Matt Martin, who only played 987 games, with 3,936 hits in his career. And the all-time hits leader, who actually just retired this year at 1,064 games, is the legend Cal Clutterbuck at 4,029 hits. So there you go, everybody.
Wow. I'm going to figure out how to make this screen share work.
You're good. You got it. You're already doing it. Nope, you had it and then you closed it. You had it. You did it right. What is this information you sent to me? I just now looked back in our call. Oh, it's all President's. You have the data. You have the President's Trophy data.
Yeah,
get this. Wait.
During your talk of the Avalanche, you were just on a roll.
Yeah.
So while I was waiting to see if you needed anything from me, but I wanted to let you cook.
That's
so
crazy.
I did some little quick research based on the last 15 years of President's Trophy champions, including asterisks for the abbreviated seasons of 2013 and then for COVID with the 2021 playoffs. So I got you, bro.
Yeah, there may be actually an argument for some correlation here. Maybe. But we also, in tandem, need to look at how many games that the winning goaltender played as well. So teams who won the Stanley Cup.
Sure. I just think it's interesting that in the abbreviated season where Corey Crawford for the Chicago Blackhawks, the smallest number of games on the list, was the lone Stanley Cup champion. That was also the President's Trophy champion on the list.
Makes sense. Yeah, interesting. You had the screen share. Try again. I believe in you. You had it.
Okay, so when I do the screen share, I'm sharing my other screen, or like the game behind it. It won't let me like share my entire screen, I don't think.
No, so you click share screen and then just click on Google Chrome or whatever browser you're using.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You did. Okay, hold on. Watch stream. Yep, you got it. I see it. We're good.
All right, it's playing.
Damn. That is.
Yeah.
Damn.
What? It took less than 4 seconds of that video for Puck to hit back.
Two. That's insane. Bro,
and that was their second shot of the game, like over 9 minutes into the game. That was Washington's second shot. Like Montreal came out with a head of steam apparently here early on, but that just shut down all the momentum.
Yeah, if anybody was wondering, it was an absolute missile. I can't even believe that. Wow.
Yeah, no goaltenders getting to that. And comment down below if you want Corey to make a shirt that says it's an absolute piss missile. I
would love to make that shirt, honestly. I would have stopped that. If I was in net, I would have stopped that.
Oh, brother, this sounds good. You got this, Mountain Man. You can block that.
Anything else you want to talk about this series, though? I think, for Montreal having no expectations, they did well. I think they deserved a little better, but just ended up getting outplayed by a superior team. But they'll be back. That's going to be a talented team in the future.
It's going to be a very talented team in the future. And like I said, what was it, 2027 or 2028 playoffs, Canadiens, Sharks final?
You heard it here first. Fucking could be.
Like when these teams both get their depth figured out.
Also, credit David Savard. Yes, David Savard, who retired at the end of this series. Always an honor, I think, to be able to play that long in the league. So just want to recognize David Savard. Well, I know we talked about it a little bit already, but we'll just wrap up here with Toronto and Ottawa. And, I don't really even want to say anything else other than it'd be really funny. It'd be funny. Can't lie. Be funny.
Well, the only other thing I want to say for this series is, game one, Toronto smacked Ottawa around, but they haven't really been running away. They've let Ottawa stay in this. Game two, 3-2 OT winner.
3 games in a row go to OT.
3-2 OT winner. Game 4, Senators win 4-3 OT. Game 5,
4-0 shutout Ottawa.
Yeah.
At
And
Toronto.
Ottawa shutting out, the Maple Leafs in Toronto 4-0. So this whole time, the Senators have been in this series. I mean, other than that first game, they've had some bad beats in overtime. They turn it around to stay alive in overtime in Game 4, and then absolutely just really dominated the Leafs in Game 5 on the scoreboard, but on the stat sheet as well. They didn't have more shots on goal, but Ullmark was saying no. He stole the game, right? But it wasn't like that. The Senators were bad because they still were out there being physical, hitting. They were still riding it on faceoffs. There were a lot of stats where they were pretty balanced with Toronto. These games are very fine margins. But this time Ottawa could actually convert on their chances, and now they get to play at home. So
yeah, I don't know.
Really, they're on a 2-game win streak. They've been in all these games with Toronto, going toe to toe with them. If it goes to Game 7, Corey, does it have a sense of feeling inevitable that Ottawa does pull off?
Yeah, it does, because it's the Leafs. It sounds so cringe but it's true. It's the Leafs. The Leafs are 1-13 in the Matthews era of in series clinching games.
Well,
1-13.
Yep. Tomorrow night, 5 p.m. The Avs game doesn't start till 7:30, so we'll be streaming it wherever we are and be tracking the score when we get to the arena, because that'll be certainly one to watch for everyone. But I mean, let's take this opportunity. It's a natural transition to talk the West, because tomorrow, Stars and Avalanche, Game 6. Golden Knights and Wild, Game 6 must win for the Wild, and a Game 6 for Kings Oilers must win for the Kings in Edmonton, and I am so upset about it.
Fuck! I fucking hate these teams. Fuck! That's all I want to say about this series. Kings, you should have won multiple games. You're letting a depthless shit-ass goaltending Edmonton come in and walk all over you. They are not that good. Yes, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard are good. Let me clarify. Evan Bouchard is good offensively. You watch him on defense, and it is the most pathetic thing you have ever seen.
It's
and
like Erik Karlsson. It's just an extra defenseman or an offensive player.
Pretty much. Like literally, the other day, Kevin Fiala fucking scored, and Evan Bouchard was defending. Kevin Fiala kind of gets a step on him, and instead of continuing to try and chase the play and stop it from happening, he just kind of glides into the net after it's been scored, and then he angrily throws it out of the net. It's like, dude, you could have done something. You could have like actually kept trying, but you just stopped skating. Anyway, this is not shit on Evan Bouchard hour, although I'm sure I will find time at some point. Yeah, I don't even want to fucking talk about this series because I'm so pissed. LA, this was your year. And yet Darcy Kemper, who was, oh my God, Dom. All 3 Vezina nominated goaltenders could go home in the first round.
It could happen.
It is Hellebuck, Kemper, and Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky's been eliminated. Kemper is on the verge of being eliminated. He has not been great this series either, by the way. Absolute leak master who should easily be outplaying the fucking Oilers. Oh, God, it's so unbelievably frustrating. You all know, if you've been listening all season, I do not like the Edmonton Oilers, and I am allowed to not like the Edmonton Oilers. I don't like them. And I also believe that the Kings had the better team. I think a lot of people did. A lot of people tried to say, this is the Kings' year. Blah, blah, blah. Not if you play like that, you fuck ass. Oh, my God, they make me so unbelievably mad.
Listen, the Kings, it's simple. The Kings should have swept the Oilers.
Yes,
they should have.
Yes.
They should have won Game 3. They should have won Game 4. There is no excuse. There is no excuse for it at all. The Oilers should not have had the opportunity of Game 5 to just be a bully like they were last night.
No less.
Like last night, and Corey, you and I texted about this. Last night sucked, y'all. Like Tuesday night was ass. Not only does Vegas win in overtime after a goal by Minnesota in the last 2 minutes is disallowed by an offside challenge that would have won them the game so they could go home for game 6 with the lead, with Flower and net, no less, with Gustafsson, I believe, injured or he was sick during the game. Like, he started the game but couldn't finish it. Then you also have the Oilers just fucking on the Kings for no reason. And I hate the Kings. I hate the Knights. But I'm actually rooting for the Kings for once. Like, can they just do something right one time, please?
I don't
want to crying out loud.
I don't want to hear about McDingle anymore. Please. Kings. Please. I'm fucking begging you, please. I don't want to hear about Connor McDavid for the next month. Let's just end my suffering. But you know what?
Yeah, and all of our suffering.
Let me say this, Dom. If the Oilers had to win that series for the Avalanche to keep winning, then so be it. I would take that. I would.
Amen.
I would take any other team that I don't like to win their series for the Avalanche to have the chance to keep playing. Full stop.
Straight up bust my bracket as long as it's not the Avs. I don't care.
Speaking of other teams that I don't fucking like, Vegas, you touched on it a little bit. I will say, though, these games have definitely could go either way. These are two top tier teams playing each other right now. And we're seeing healthy Minnesota. We're seeing the Minnesota that at the start of the season was leading the Central. They've looked really good. And this is definitely one of those series that I think, much like Colorado and Dallas, is probably deservedly so gonna go 7 games.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, OT happening here, back-to-back games, and Vegas has taken it down in OT, but very, very close, very back and forth. There's been no clear advantage, no clear obvious team that's dominating the other. Very, very high compete level, very physical games. A lot of hits. Both teams are averaging 30+ hits a game, while also having over 20-25 shots on goal each per game. And block shots and averaging in the 20 range. So both teams are going out there and doing all the things. The power play, I think Minnesota's converting on their power play, which is good. They're also keeping Vegas at bay, despite having their power play be incredibly strong. Overall in the series, it's been kept relatively quiet compared to the regular season.
Minnesota's power play instead.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny to see both teams score on a single power play separated by like 12 seconds. I don't know if I'd actually seen that before.
Yeah, that is definitely a rarity. I think it's definitely happened, but a rarity nonetheless.
Oh, I'm sure it has happened. I just don't know if I've actually had the chance to witness it while watching the game on my stream.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boley have been playing out of their damn minds.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about duos, we don't necessarily have those 3-headed monsters anymore, but that's one to keep watching for the future because Boldy's been playing super well. I believe he was in the Four Nations, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, and he played well there.
He did.
He's going to be big here for years to come. It's just the talent as he gets better over time and has more and more experience. The sky's the limit, really, for him. So, and I mean, they have a legit goaltender in Gustafsson. Like, Minnesota is real. They're here. And I think right now the edge in these OT games is going to that experience. Just Vegas has been here and has done this, and this is what they do, and that's what makes them so frustrating. But Minnesota is right there with them. And I mean, we're talking millimeters of a difference between Minnesota winning that game in regulation 3-2. So this could very easily be a 3-2 series in Minnesota's favor. If it doesn't go 7 games, it's not there's no justice really.
Yeah, I was so sad when I saw that it got called back for offside. It was some horse shit. And of course, leave it to Vegas to ruin it for everyone. So yeah. Last series here, the one that we have on right in front of us, unless you had anything else you wanted to add for Vegas, Minnesota.
No, yeah, let's pivot to Winnipeg, St. Louis, the battle of homestands.
Yeah, so exactly as Dom said, Winnipeg is currently leading 4-2 with a shots on goal differential of 22-10. So Winnipeg, for whatever reason, on home ice is doing really well. And I mean, like I said that I still think Winnipeg is ultimately going to win this series. And I mean, their play on home ice is certainly demonstrating that because they have the one additional game. Really, it would not surprise me, Dom, if every game or every series in the Western Conference goes 7. And I think that'd be better for everybody because then it's always like, oh, well, that team beat up on that team. Nope, everybody is equally tired because they all went 7 games. So I think that's at this point what I'm kind of hoping for.
And it's a testament to the West. Let's just say that because when we talked about how good the teams in the Central were, and then you factor in Vegas, and then it's Kings versus Edmonton. This has been a battle for years going on here, and so it feels destined to go that way. If any two Pacific teams are going to give each other a battle, it's those two right now. We've known this, and I think I've said it for a while, but I really do think the champion this year comes from the West and specifically from the Central. It's just too loaded.
I still very much agree with that sentiment. So it just matters on who comes out alive at this point. But I will say Gabe has actually made an interesting choice here. Obviously, he's wrong on this front. He had Minnesota beating Vegas in 5 games, which is a little presumptuous, but I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility here. But he has Vegas actually going all the way to the Western Conference Final. Impressive.
Minnesota,
choice.
You mean, correct?
I did mean Minnesota. I am very sorry. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah. So interesting choice there, Gabe. I don't necessarily think you're wrong, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it'd be
well, and he also has your pick of Toronto over Ottawa in 6.
Yeah, and he did the smart thing and picked Toronto to go to the conference final, like I should have fucking done. But we'll see if Toronto can pull it out. Who knows? Well, any other series notes you'd like to touch on, Dom?
I think we've overall summed it up. When we come to you next episode, we'll be able to have a wrap on the first round and be previewing or talking about the second round. And I'm sure the emotion and the tone of the episode will be set very early, depending on the outcome of tomorrow night.
Well, the thing is,
or tonight when you hear this.
The thing is, if the series does go to Game 7, and then or however that ends up going, you know, I will have at least had time to process it for the better or for worse. You know what I mean? I will have had time to sit with it. I'll get either my really sad day or my day of elation, hopefully the day of elation. And like I agreed after Game 1, I will not be satisfied until Dallas is golfing. And I knew that was going to be the case because, man, they've made this series agonizing. There is no team I hate playing more than Dallas. They give me the most heart palpitation. And the playoffs in general do that. So, yeah, it's tough. But, again, I love this team. I will always support them. So, ooga booga. Your players of the week, Brock Nelson, who finally had a good game, assisted on Gabriel Landeskog's first goal in 1,041 games. How can I not give him a shout out here? Nathan MacKinnon, who is the leading scorer on the Avalanche, as you would expect him to be. So at least he is doing what Nathan MacKinnon does. And number 1, Gabriel Landeskog. Duh. What else do I have to say? Well, everybody, I'm sorry. I don't have a fun fact for you today, except I'm coming up with this on the fly. I've been kind of thinking about it because, you know, we have Toronto here potentially about to be hit with probably the most embarrassing series loss in this era. So I thought, I know we maybe have talked about it before, and I know Dom really wants to talk about it. What other teams have come back from down 3-0 in the NHL? Because it is truly an oddity, right? Well, it has actually only happened 4 times in the series in the history of the NHL. I don't even know if this was a fact before, but it feels prevalent to right now. And oh my God, my brain is exploding. Anyway,
how about this, Corey? The funnest fact of this fun fact, right? And we can get to my suffering.
No, don't skip ahead. Hush. In 1942, the only time it's ever happened in the Cup final was the Toronto Maple Leafs, ironically enough, beat the Detroit Red Wings to come back from a 3-0 deficit to win the Stanley Cup. That would be ass. That'd be agonizing. And then in 1975, almost 30 years later, the New York Islanders did it to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the quarterfinals. So I believe quarterfinals would be the first round. And then
quarterfinals, it depends. Are they conference quarterfinals or are they the overall quarterfinals?
Overall quarterfinals.
Overall quarterfinals would be
Stanley
second
Cup
round.
Quarterfinals. Okay.
Yeah, that would be the second round then, because then the semifinals are the conference championships, and then obviously the final is the cup itself.
Well, the Eastern Conference semis are going to be in the salary cap era. That's going to be the second round. That's not the conference final. Because the only time it's happened in the salary cap era is the Philadelphia Flyers did it to the Boston Bruins in 2010 in the Eastern Conference semis. And they ended up actually going all the way to the Stanley Cup and lost to fucking Patrick Kane. Ooga booga. Wow, I don't know how the Winnipeg Jets just missed that one. But then our most recent example, and the only time it has ever happened in the first round, the Los Angeles Kings, the lowest seeded team to ever win a Stanley Cup, came back to beat the San Jose Sharks, loaded with players such as Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, and plenty of other talent at the time in the first round. They would also go on to win the Stanley Cup. So there you go, everybody. So it isn't
pain. I am pain.
It isn't impossible, but I will say that history is on Toronto's side. But vibes most certainly are not. And the stigma is not good. So if they can't figure this out, they truly need to blow it all up. Like,
new theory that it is just a karmic balance because they were the first team to come back from 3-0 and it was in the Stanley Cup final.
Perhaps so.
That there's doomed to be some suffering, but how about this? Battle of California, right? The rivals with the Kings and the Sharks, having that happen in the first round, a 1 seed versus an 8 seed type of thing, or a 7 seed, whatever.
It was an 8 seed.
You know, it was an 8 seed. Okay. So I guess this time it's the number 2 overall because I think the Capitals finished ahead, right? But you understand you catch my drift here.
I do.
You win your division and play the wild card, and then a regional rival, go up 3-0, have every reason to be winning. I'm just saying, there's a lot of parallels here. So Ottawa.
Oh my God, you're right.
Do me a favor, do my bracket a favor, do the Sharks a favor. We helped you out. We gave you Fabian Zetterlund. Come on, help us out here. Beat Toronto, please. I would love to see what happens. I'm when you're rooting for chaos, Corey, I don't want to see Toronto on fire, but I do want to see this playoff bracket just go wild with Ottawa in the second round, because then you know what we get? We get Kachuk on Kachuk crime
battle. Yeah, everybody wants the
and
Kachuk
I
battle.
Want that so bad. More than anything else I've said, that is what I want. I want a Brady versus Matthew brother on brother battle, grudge match. I'm sorry for their parents that I'm rooting for this, but I am.
Dom, do you remember that series in 2014?
It was 2012, I believe.
It was 2014. It says 2014.
Was it 2014?
It was 2014.
Oh, well then, yeah, I mean, I was watching hockey at that point. I remember going up 3-0. I remember the pain, like 14. Yeah, it would have been right before or right after we moved.
Dude,
here to Colorado, actually.
I would be actually punching holes in my fucking drywall. Like, oh my God. I could not even explain. Like, because it's one thing to lose in the series just normally, but to have 4 chances to end the series and move on and blow every single one, and then watch that team go on and win the Stanley Cup. Oh, dude. Hey, that'd be ass. That'd be really ass.
Yeah, I mean, 50-plus win season. The days when we still had Danny Boyle, Justin Braun on defense. Logan Couture was still there at that point. Young and healthy Brent Burns. Jason Demers, like I'm just reliving it here. Tomas Hertl was young with that team, but Patrick Marleau in his prime. We saw Matt Nieto, Joe Pavelski in his prime, Joe Thornton still playing his best, Mark-Edouard Vlasic in his prime, Tommy Wingles. So many names. I'm going down memory lane right here. Antti Niemi, great in net for the team. I mean, it was 2014. You realize that was like one of my first games I remember during the regular season when I went in 2014 for my birthday, not too long, just a couple months before the playoffs. And I have that jersey, and I got my hat signed by a couple of Sharks, including Mr. Burns, who is still one of my favorites to this day. Just a lot of, and Vlasic too. Pickles. I had the defenseman. So you're unlocking a core memory right now. But
so see, there was some positive that came out of it.
Yeah, that was 2 months prior, right? And then we move at the start of the summer, like right after the playoff pain. So it wasn't much time to really feel it before we were making the drive out here to Colorado.
I was curious if Matt Nieto, that made me think, because he was on the Avalanche for quite a few years. I was wondering if he was still playing hockey. He is on the endless limbo in hell, known as the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I was curious if he was still playing. And there you go. He is.
Yeah, he's been with the both each of the Avs and the Sharks in multiple stints.
Times.
Yeah. Before winding up in Schittsburg.
Womp womp. Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Did you know there's a comment section where you can leave your thoughts and questions? If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche Sharks or just hockey in general, leave it below and we'll be happy to try and answer it. Or email us. We are actually pretty cognizant of monitoring the emails. So our email's in the description of every episode. So if you have something you need to tell us, you can send it that way. Or message us on Instagram like the person who sent me a funny-ass meme did today. I sent you a happy face. It was funny, but it also hurt. So watch yourself. There's also a unique poll for you to interact with every episode. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and to share this podcast everywhere you can, whether that's with your mouse or your mouth. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And this is Dom from the Tank.
Check out our new episodes every week. We'll see y'all at Game 6. Thanks, everyone.